Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ODTN use case team meeting of 2019. First of all, let me wish you a happy new year. I hope the holiday break was very good for everybody, and you got time to spend with your families and got a bit of relax and are ready to start the new year. Um, so Happy New Year, everybody. The second point I want to touch on is as ONF, we are still waiting for the review on the ODTN reference design. I put the links over there, and if anybody is an ONF member, so if your company is an ONF member, you have access to it. I would like for you to take a look, review, and see what is written in the document, and please give any advice if there is anything missing or anything that you would like to be different, so that the ODTN reference design team has time to address those comments in separate calls and then come up with newer iterations of the document itself. Um, so please go take a look over there, and there is up until February to review it. So there's still time, but I encourage everybody to do it as soon as possible so we have more time to address those comments as ODTN, the reference design team. I don't see. Oh, yeah, there is Karthik on the call. Sorry, Karthik, I didn't see you. So before during the last call, you said that you were still working on a database for the TAPI RI project. I just want to know if there is any update on that.
No. I have to get back to that after the break. I was on vacation. I have not.
Okay. Okay, that's.
Jeff and Deepinder. These guys are already debugging using that local Zeal account.
Let me mute.
All right, so let's get started.
Okay. Sorry, guys, for that. Thanks, Karthik, for the update.
Yeah.
And,
so, anyways, yeah.
We'll get back to it as soon as you have more information on it. So yeah, let me bring up the Jira board that we're taking a look at and see what has been done in the past, like after the last call we had. So during the last weeks or so, there was the break, but thanks to the effort of Diego, Arturo, and others in Telefonica, we managed to implement the device description discovery for the OLS with TAPI 2.1. So now ONOS is capable of discovering that a TAPI 2.1 based OLS, and is capable of retrieving information of the ports. As per our discussion last time, we were capable of issuing requests and translating the.
There was, yeah, briefly.
Okay. Arturo, we were just discussing about the implementation that you guys have done for the OLS, and I was wondering if you could give us an update on the Lambda query and the flow rule programmable for the OLS.
Hello, everyone. Yes, as you know, we complete the first phase of this driver development during Christmas. So now we are focusing on implementation of this Lambda query for the OLS. From now, we didn't have assessed the flow rule programmable part of the driver. Because we were like step by step, and we are right now trying to solve some issues that we have been encountering when assessing the Lambda query development. So Shortly, we have been addressing two options in order to implement this Lambda query behavior. One is to rely on static network information that it has been retrieved during the device discovery process. So basically, when we get the tap information from the service interface points that we are going to map into ONOS device ports, we can create a map or hash map of OCH signals, each of those representing one of the slots of the spectrum if we are, for instance, talking about a fixed grid WDM network. So that's what we have initially thought about, but we were having some troubles in order to get this information saved, as it is not an string to string mapping, cannot be, let's say, stored in the annotation for the port. So we were exploring other alternatives in order to assess that. The other option is to rely on, let's say, real-time or asynchronous querying of the OLS controller. So every time that you are calling the Lambda query behavior, you can directly access to the controller and retrieve the information of the service interface points in real time and adjust or update the information that is querying to this behavior. So this is the two alternatives. And at the beginning, I thought that it was going to be easier, the first one, to rely on static mapping. And in fact, that's a little bit, well, what we are going to have in the network, because we believe that it's going to be static for the demo in the case of the APA implementation. But well, maybe if the common opinion here is that it makes sense to go directly for the real time, it could make sense because it's actually not going to be much more difficult to do it. To implement it. In fact, it seems that even can be easier. So I would like to know your opinion about this.
From my point of view, if you guys are capable of doing real time for the time that we have, meaning that as we said, like the end of January, to have the code ready for testing for OFC, I'm very happy that it can be done like that. I don't foresee any problems in doing it real time every time. It's a REST call. It shouldn't be that hard. Also, from a computation point of view, inside the OLS controller on top of the Adva OLS. So, if you guys are willing to do it online, real time, I'm perfectly fine. Is there any comment from Conrad or Stefan?
Okay, I think that for the long term, it makes sense that every time that you are calling this behavior, you are actually querying the status of the network, because it can change or, well, um, for the planning perspective, if you are relying on this behavior in order to make your planning, it makes sense that it's updated information. So I think that taking into account that from the development perspective doesn't seem too much more work than the one that we did before for the device discovery behavior, because in fact it's going to be the same piece of code that we can easily duplicate, or we can even be moved there. From our side, it's not going to be a problem. So yeah, from the Lambda query, I think that we can move in this direction.
Okay.
During this week, I hope that we can have an update. I'm a little bit more worried about the flow room programmable, because this is something that we didn't assess yet. And our resources for development, are quite limited. So I wonder if there will be possible that someone that has already have experience with the configuration and flow rules. The part of translating MBI TAPI calls into actual actions into the network, and they know which is the workflow inside ONOS and so on. Can start with this. I think think that is going to be helpful, because otherwise I see quite difficult that we can reach the development time that you are proposing for the end of January. I mean, we are not saying that we cannot collaborate, that we can continue working on this, but I mean, it's something that we don't have it clear yet. So I think that it will be helpful if someone else jump up into the collaboration on this latest part of the development.
Okay, I can give you a hand on that side and start at least some initial sketch of what needs to be done, and maybe I'll hand it to you for testing after you have done the Lambda query, because I don't like it could set up a
Yeah, I
testing
mean,
framework, but I don't have it.
that seems perfect. I mean, because from Telefonica perspective, what we are trying to do in parallel is to set up the lab. We are in touch with people from ADVA in order to install their controller and to have the network ready for testing as soon as possible. And also we have the infrastructure to install the controller and so on. So this is something that we can doing for sure on parallel, and to have it done before the end of January, I think that is something feasible, and have February for testing the application. The most critical part from us is the know-how of the internal ONOS behavior, which is something that consumes us a lot of time, as you have seen so far, and that's why I think that it will be helpful for the health of the project to have someone a little bit more experienced that can guide us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my hope is also that through this work we can collaborate. And I mean, you have already started learning a lot more than when you started, like a few months ago. And through the process of collaborating on this, you can also level up even more your set of skills, which is very important for us. Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Then I'll start the sketch on that and publish it as soon as possible. Okay. Then here, Dominique Kwan, do you have any update on your side of the implementation?
I am alone. I am not with Kwan today after the break. In fact, Kwan is going to be less available. That's why I'm trying to take over his contribution. We didn't progress a lot, to be sincere on that. I hope to have more to report next week, especially on the development on the flow rule programmable. This is what I can say today. This is yes, not. We have already tested for sure our driver with ONOS to configure the power and so on, but it has not been for the moment, I should say, integrated or reported inside here in ONOS.
Okay, then let me know if you need any help on that, especially since you're taking over some of Quan contributions, and let me know if there is anything I can do to speed up this process and make sure that you're up to speed to all the possible contributions.
Okay. Yes, I will probably need to sync up by end of the week on that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then let's have a offline sync up on that. Okay. Then a little bit on my side. I've been working on an initial set of tests for ODTN, which just at the moment involve checking that all the applications are ready, that TAPI northbound is present, that we can make calls to it, and that at the initial setup, before connecting any device, we get an empty TAPI context and an empty connectivity request. There are no connectivity requests set up. There is a patch on Gerrit for that. I believe it's this one. No, sorry about that. This. So you can check it out, and this works with any given ONOS. It sets up on a X number of instances. Does the setup of the instances, install ONOS, installs the ODTN application, and then does a set of tests on the running environment. And this is still needs a bit of testing, but on my side, it's good to go. But if you guys want to test it, please feel free to pull it and send me an email on how to do it. There is a guide. I'll put a link in the use case meeting here for a guide on how to use this STC, which is our testing for framework for ONOS. And this already prompted me to fix like a few things, especially on the activation that was throwing some errors, and there were some warnings, and it was not properly cleaned. So I just managed to do a little bit of fix thanks to this automated testing. I would like to thank Ramon for especially this file here, Tapi Helper, because it was based upon his work. And it definitely helped me to get up to speed at a higher pace. Next steps for this patch are for this work is to include the topology tests and connectivity service setup. For that, there is a minor issue because I don't have at the moment infrastructure capable of bringing up Docker containers. At least the ONF cells where I test this are not capable of bringing up STC. I'm bringing up Docker containers because we use LXC containers, so it's a bit of a nested environment which doesn't work with the Docker. So, but I'm planning to have a server just reserved to this in the next week. So I'm capable of doing an end-to-end test with the emulators, the Docker emulators that we are using. So that's any questions, any thoughts? No? Okay. Then I'm probably gonna, if no reviews come by like a few days, I'm probably gonna go and merge this initial test because this works even without the Docker emulators. So just as I said, please go take a look at it. It's on Gerrit. And it's there. Also, I've kept track of the OFC demo, and and that is our own demo. But I would also be, I'm also very happy to announce that probably there will be a collaboration with the Telecom Infra project to reproduce at least the phase 1.0 demo on top of Cassini that we did for NF Connect at OFC. At either probably the TIP booth. So the ODTN project is also going to have a demo at probably the TIP booth with Cassini devices and at least the phase 1.0 code. I'm pushing towards a possibility of having a phase 1.5, meaning that for the transponder, meaning tuning the wavelength and the power, which is good for the project itself. Okay. Ramon, do you want to give us any update on the TAPI 2.1 connectivity intent, optical connectivity intent?
I have a very basic draft that works in my setup. So I'm expecting 1 week to polish and submit it first. I was blocked maybe by the issues with TAPI, including, well, you're aware of this because I keep on emailing you quite often, but I had a test case in which I was missing local ID for the Kate list and so on. Now I have the pieces and I get the SIPs identified from the request, of the RPC request. And then it's a matter of checking the TAPI topology and basically creating an optical connectivity intent with the intent manager. I'm a bit like still not sure because depending on the tests, sometimes I get exceptions saying that there are TAPI endpoints that are not in the database and strange things that I need to chase. Why is it happening? And I'm doing this because I'm testing with a setup that we already have, which is it's composed of 16 nodes. Some of them are open RODAM, some of them are open config, but that's okay. And I'm seeing that first, it's taking a long time to launch the scenario. It means that if I launch ONOS and then I add the 16 netconf devices, the time it takes until all the ports are discovered, all the Lambda are query, or it's in the order of minutes, and it's a bit frustrating. And I don't know if it's the dynamic configuration store. It's very slow, and this is why Hiroki was doing this. How is it called? The cache of the DCS. I don't know if you remember the details. And checking the logs from time to time, I get an exception like topology manager, endpoint, whatever, not found. So I'm a bit still checking why is it failing. But the short message is I have a basic draft of what is required, and I hope to complete it really soon, now that the TAPI issues are fixed. Of course, this requires, as you know, that we bump ONOS Young Tools to 2.7 with your patch or something similar.
Yeah, so let me just bring everybody up to speed to that. So there was an issue where there was a split array in the JSON serialization due to some internals of the JSON serialization of the Yang tools. And it was returning just a subset of devices, for example, in the TAPI context. So in order to avoid that, the first step that we took is that I did a change in the encoder utils of the JSON serialization of the Yang tools. And this is the patch that you can see here. In order to keep lexicographical ordering. So it's, sorry, I'm using a comparator that keeps lexicographical ordering and orders the set of elements in the data, that orders the data nodes and returns us a list of ordered data nodes that can be then serialized without having any issues, such as breaking the JSON array into different JSON arrays with the same key, and that would issue a problem when actually obtaining the final JSON. So with this patch, which is merged, which is in the Yang tools, it can be done, and now it works. It was merged this morning. I still have to ask Ray Milky from ONF to do a release of the Yang tools, and then I would need to update them in ONOS 2.1, and I would probably also update them in ONOS 2.0, since this is only a minor change from the northbound perspective. It doesn't change any of the internals. So having said that, this is the patch that Ramon was talking about, and this is needed for him to do the translation properly from the northbound to the southbound. It's great, Ramon, thanks that you have the draft. I would also suggest that for that startup long time issue that you were seeing, just maybe try and capture some logs and anything that is happening, and just send them to me. Something else that I want to point out is that I'm also doing a refactoring of the netconf device provider to simplify the device connection. This was also something that was issued and as a bug to me like a few months ago, but it was a minor bug. I didn't have time to take a look at it at the time, but during the break I was able of tracking it down and really simplifying the netconf device provider code, taking away a lot of things that were layered on top since like 3 years, basically, since this code was written, and this is a much simpler version of the netconf device provider, which avoids a lot of the previous hacks that were there, and avoids also issuing any type of request to the device before the session is set up. So this needs distributed testing for the same reason I don't currently have their environment to test it against myself, because I want to do some stress testing. But if you guys have time to take a look at it, just breeze through it. This does speed up the connection of the device and the port discovery by a factor of like 3x. So that could also maybe mitigate some of the issues you're seeing, Ramon, but no promises there. I was not aware of the issues you were seeing. Okay.
No,
please go ahead.
Sorry, just one. No, I guess that the problems I'm getting, they may be more related to the topology manager that entity provided, that they keep on mapping and adding TAPI elements to the DCS based on the discovery. And for some reason, not all of them are added or something like this. That said, as you know, I reported those issues with Netcom. I still happen, but I will postpone this until I try this patch. I still see some cases where the ports are discovered before the device and that kind of things, but let's keep it on the side.
Yeah,
and the problem I'm having is I'm testing this with 2 OpenConfig terminal devices, all emulated, but at the ONOS level, and 14 ROADMs. And ROADMs have easily 3-4 degrees. And then they have a lot of what is called SRGs or pair ports. It means that a node can have easily, I don't know, 20 or 40 ports. So if you start multiplying the number of ports times the number of nodes times the Lambda query per port times the netcode, it adds up easily. So I guess that maybe there is not much we can do with this current state of ONOS, in that we need to leave the system up and running a few minutes before everything converges. This is something that Yuta also noticed, and it was him who let me know this.
Okay, let's do this. Maybe we can sync offline. We can take it offline. But I would like to take a look at exactly like the set of steps that you're doing and see if there is at least some easy fix that can be done, or like some easy work that can speed up, maybe do parallelization of these storage of elements, like easy, speeding up things that can be done. Maybe we can sync upon this offline. It doesn't.
So in terms of concrete action points, I'm still on Christmas break, but that's okay. I'm expecting to go back next Monday. My first priority is to complete the my ONOS 78227, the TAPI2 connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second priority will be the scalability, because right now we have to focus on the OLS. And I'm guessing that with the 1, 2, 3 nodes, it does not really happen. And then once we have the connectivity intent mapping, we can focus on scalability. So just to fix things.
Yeah. Okay, then let's do that. In the meantime, I'll see if there is something that already I'll breeze through the code and see if there is something that really sticks in my eyes that it's missing, like parallelization or something like that. Okay. If anybody has time, please go and review the netconf device provider patch. There was also another change that I wanted to point out. No, okay, that was it. Going back to the meeting notes, I know that Alessio wanted to give us an update on the Metro Hall implementation of the flow root programmable. That is the first flow root programmable that we have actually in the code base for configuring the wavelength on transponders. And that is what I know Nokia was also referencing at, and he has been testing it extensively with a few emulators. So, Alessio, can you share some update?
Yeah, sure. As I also shared with Ramon before the vacations, I worked on the terminal device driver, including the flow rule programmable. and now we have a version that is working with the Metrol agent of the terminal device. So if you agree, we can share the patch in the next days, and also we can share a sample of our agent in the page in the ODTN wiki website.
Yeah, when you say a sample of your agent, you mean the models that you're using?
Yes, the models and a sample of the XML representing, for example, a muxponder with we are using now 8 client side interface and 1 line interface, but we can easily extend to what is needed, because so it is quite modular and can be extended anywhere. And
but the code is so meaning the emulator is done on top of conf.d, right?
yes.
Okay.
The emulator, but our idea now was to put a link to the XML representation of the device. So just sharing the XML model, to say, we can say, as already present in the wiki page for the Nokia and the NEC agents.
Okay, that would be great. Having another option.
Andrea, with respect to the current version of the terminal device, so there are not major modifications. There are only, say, few modifications, and then I tested on our agents, and so I did some, as I mentioned to Ramon before the vacation, I did some assumptions. I guess they are quite reasonable, but obviously we can discuss them, or maybe after uploading the patch.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that is the best course of action. Just upload the patch, modify the wiki pages with the added information that you might want to add, and then we can both review the patch and the updated information and make sure everything is up in sync. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks. Another point that I have on my personal agenda is that I know, Ramon, you shared a question in relationship with OpenConfig models that I routed to everybody on the mailing list, and if I have not done so, I need to do it. But I would like to learn more about this from you.
Okay. Yeah, it's well, the first of things, I didn't get any answer from OpenConfig, so I don't know what's the actual status, but it's good. I put Alessio and you in copy when I send this email to the OpenConfig mailing list, because I know that you're working on this, and maybe you found this issue as well. But in short, if you use conf.d, you know that you can just basically use conf.d as a generic agent, and then you load the models, the YANC models, and you can even load the configuration database and even the operational database. And I was finding an issue in that for components of type optical channel, that they have an operational type, that it's an optical channel. I was finding that for some reason it was not appearing in the conf.d database. So I was doing a typical netconf get. I was expecting to get all the components, like and then parsing and getting which one were optical channels. And the thing is, strictly speaking, optical channel is an identity that is defined in a module, that is the prefix namespace. It's OC-OPT types, as you can see in the screen that you're showing. And the thing is, unless you really put the right namespace and prefix, conf.d is not actually parsing this. So when you feed the XML, it's complaining a wrong value for this type leaf, so to speak. However, if you go a bit down, maybe in the mail, You have to go open. So as you can see, if you look at the patch, the augment that OpenConfig is doing to the component is done when the type is optical channel. But the thing that this optical channel is not prefixed, it's making conf_d not see the augment. So all these attributes that characterize an optical channel are not seen by conf_d. If you change the augment and you say augment the component when the component type is, and then you have OC, OPT types, which is it's very technical. I'm sorry for boring you with this, but when you put the actual namespace, then this augment is seen by conf_d, and then you can feed the operational data, and you can really get all the things in your database, and you do the get, and you get everything. And there is a second follow-up mail. I don't know if I sent you that one. This is not the only case. This is one case. It's affecting us because we're playing with optical channel components. But in fact, there are a couple of more places where this augment is, in my humble opinion, without being an expert, wrong, because it's not characterizing the type correctly. It's using like a string for something that should be an identity and which is defined in some other module. Very technical. So what I know is that for me, this works with this change. I trust conf_d. I mean, this is a very serious piece of software. So the fact that they were not accepting the original XML with optical channel only, but they accept it with the prefix, and then if I change the young, it works everything as expected, it makes me think that it could be a bug. And I such as a report it, but I didn't get any feedback. So if you have comments on this, or what's your view, it would be great.
No, I actually, I mean, I brought it up because I actually agree with you, the fact that there should be an augmentation in there. But I was hoping that you got a reply from the OpenConfig community, and so that we could just maybe close this issue. But since you didn't, maybe we can see if we need to ask any of our contacts in the OpenConfig community to take a look at this.
If you can, it would be great. I'm usually ignored in some environments, but if you can just speed up this, it would be good, because it's directly, it's not a problem of the operational data being wrong. It's a problem of the actual young model. So I'm guessing how people until now managed to make this work. Maybe the agents are less strictly checking, or less conforming, or not caring about what optical channel in which namespace is defined, which is also okay. It could be possible that you're less strict, but I was hitting this, so I don't know. Maybe Alessio, did you hit something similar, or maybe not? I don't know why.
Ramon, so we can check better because you know, Andreas Gambelluri did the work with the agent. We will check better in these days, and we will let you know if we had the same issue.
Okay. In fact, you could work around it, because sometimes people, by the name of the component or by other let's say workarounds, you end up doing whatever you need. So at the end, if you want to modify the frequency and if you want to modify things, you can make it work. But the straightforward way of having the augment and having this, it's this one. So if you could check it, fine. In any case, in my test, in my agents, I'm going to use this modified version. But it would be great if you could check it. Thanks.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Okay, thanks. Last point that I wanted to discuss is that we left it for this time to be discussed, because last time we didn't have people from ADVA on the call. And that is the power configuration and so how to gather the power config from the OLS and then give it back to the transponder in order for it to configure its power and tune its power according to the OLS needs. So the first question that I have to the people from ADVA and to anybody who has like Notion inside the OLS space is it more dynamic or static? Because I would expect that once you set up the open line system, you kind of know what power you need to receive on any given port, independent of the wavelength that you're setting up and independent of what optical channel you're provisioning between any two given ports of the open line system. But I've heard that there is also the possibility of having a dynamic power depending on the internal state changes of the open line system. So what is the way you guys are doing it at the moment?
So Andrea, this is Gary. I just wanted to comment on the remark that, once you set it up, you know the power. This is the problem in optical networks is that of the impairments. And you have nonlinear and linear impairments. And the linear impairments, what you said, is true. It's just channel dependent. But the problem is there are nonlinear impairments, a variety, you can list them, but those couple not only to the impact of the quality of transmission of a particular channel, but also impacts the other channels as well. And so when one channel is added, or when one channel is set up, you're right, and it's the only channel. But then when you start to put in additional channels, those are going to couple and interact and require power adjustments because of the addition of a new channel or multiple channels. So just want to add that context here a bit. Unfortunately, I think this is some of the challenge of doing optical networking, is trying to manage that flexibility when changes happen. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Then from what I hear, it's better if we keep a dynamic workflow for the power, even if it's static due to just linear impairments. It's better if we have a dynamic way of polling the OLS for the power after setting up a connectivity request and an optical channel, getting the power back and configuring the transponders with that power. Is that the best way to do it?
I agree with that. There are different network cases from the OLS perspective where you would want a static power, or you can manage a static power, but the dynamic case is also required in some configurations, and I think that gives you the superset. So I agree with you. I think you should plan for dynamic.
Okay, in the case of the ADVA OLS that we will use for OFC demo, how are you guys doing it? Would dynamic be okay with you? Meaning, after the setup, after the request of a connectivity service to TAPI, I also request a power for a given port of that connectivity request, meaning a given service interface point of TAPI. And you give it back to me and I use it for configuring the transponders. Is that okay?
Basically, yes.
Stefan, you have...
Go ahead, Stefan.
Yeah, just want to say, I mean, I think in OFC case, the OLS will be pretty simple. Yeah, we will talk about probably a 3-node network or something like that, where my assumption would be that everything can be pre-planned and there will be, let's say, a static power level. But like the other guys were saying, if the network is more complex, then obviously you have to do some recalculations. And I think the key point will be who will do this calculation. If this is something which will be done in the OLS, which probably is a good assumption, yeah, because only the OLS would know all the parameters, then obviously the OLS would have to tell ONOS the new required values, which then have to be communicated to the transponders. Yeah, But there could also be another option that there would be some calculation, so that the planning functionality in ONOS or in the orchestrator, some kind of apps, would then do the calculation, and then obviously it would not come from the OLS. So I think there are several scenarios. So again, for OFC, it's going to be simple because the network is going to be simple. But for a real operation, I think we need some further discussion of so which entity would do the calculation, and this would then also tell us the communication flows.
Okay. No, I understand it. I think that there is still the need to set up this workflow in for the power, because at the moment the power configuration is not present, at least in our workflow. So I would need to understand exactly which classes need to be involved for a dynamic workflow, which is the best one. Which I get that the dynamic one is the needed one independently of exactly who picks the power, because it's an iterative process. If another optical end-to-end channel is set up, you might need to tune the power of an existing optical channel. So it needs to be a dynamic approach, if I'm not mistaken. Then I'll try to characterize this workflow and put it together in slide deck, and then we can have this discussion in one of the next meetings. For the OpenConfig experts on the call, on the terminal device, am I correct in understanding that we would need to tune the power through this parameter, the target output power, given an optical channel configuration?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that was my same understanding too. So I'll keep that there, and I'll try to recharacterize this slide with the dynamic workflow, and let's have the discussion maybe in one of the next weeks. I agree that for FC this is actually not needed because we could also have maximum output power, and my understanding was that the OLS could, in a simpler case, kind of figure it out. But for a real deployment scenario, we have to tune the power. So let's get. I'll kickstart the documentation, and then we can discuss it on next week's call. Okay. Any other points that you guys want to cover? I still also owe Ramon a survey to see if it's possible to move this call to a better time for him to join. I didn't forget that. I didn't do it before Christmas because otherwise it would just be lost completely at this time. I'll start it today and see if the results enable us to.
Okay, if it's not possible, I understand. I will anyway talk to Arturo and people in Telephonic and try with Alessio and try to follow activities. It's just a matter of conflict with the schedule. So I don't want to disturb. If it's not possible, we will work anyway somehow. I will just be unable to follow at this time, but I can follow by email or by exchanges. So if it takes a lot of effort or noise or it's really inconvenient for a lot of people, let me.
Yeah, I'll just send out a poll asking, proposing a couple of times, or having the option to leave it at this time, and see what everybody replies, and let's see where it goes from there. Okay. If there are not any other points, as I said, please guys take a look at the different reviews there are in Garrett's for our works, the netcom device provider, the STC, and the terminal device type. If they look good, please +1 them so I can go ahead and merge them. I'll start the work with the full programmable for the OLS in order to do a better parallel job with and sync up with the Telefonica guys. I'll talk to Dominique about him taking over some of Juan's responsibilities, and I'll check if we can speed up the conversation in OpenConfig about that, the discussion we had before, and I'll document better the power configuration needs that we have, so to kickstart the discussion next time. And I hope you guys have your Jira stories, and if anything else, you know where to find me. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? Okay. If not, thanks everybody, and let's chat offline for anything, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.